right, joining me on this week's episode, I have co-host of the ROOST podcast, Ben O'Brien. Ben, how are we doing today?
Hey, Pierce, how's it going, man?
Excellent, dude. I'm stoked to be chatting with you. I'm really stoked for this one, actually. So we crossed paths briefly as I was leaving the Doe Derby on that cold December evening, and I was coming out the door, and I heard a voice, and I was like, I know that voice. Why do I know that voice? And I was flashing back to my days as a humble grad student when I was painting houses in 2019 over the summer, and I would just show up to the job, click on the Hunting Collective, and binge those episodes to get me through the summer. And so I'm really stoked to be chatting with you today. And obviously you're not doing that anymore, but just to see where you're at today, talk some turkeys, talk a little driftless action, and just learn more about you, dude. I'm stoked for this one.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I always apologize to people that have listened to podcasts I'm on. I'm like, sorry you had to go through that experience. But my apologies. The 2019 was a fun year, so I'm glad you're on the back end. And it was, it was a cold night in Doug Duren's farmhouse. I will say that he's here in town in Bozeman this week, and we did share a few beers last night. So if I'm not quite up to snuff on the podcast, and you can blame Doug, he's following me around, making me go to bars in different places. So you can always blame him.
He's a rascal, that's for sure.
He is. He is.
Well, dude, so I mean, you've got a pretty long resume here, but can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Just kind of like what your career's looked like up to this point and what all you do?
Yeah, I mean, that's, we were talking a little bit before we hit record about the trajectory. I would say kind of in a nutshell, my career, I trained as a journalist and wanted to be a journalist my whole life. That was the dream as a kid. That was the dream in college. It was always kind of slanted towards sports in the beginning. But I always wanted to be a journalist. My personality is very much like, I'm not a joiner. I'm from the East Coast, so I don't really agree with much. I'm pretty skeptical. It's just like the nature of who I am and how I've always been. I was never a good a school student because I was always arguing with the teacher, debating with the principal about some rule or something that I didn't agree with. So that's always been my personality. So I think it paired pretty well with being a journalist. And so that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I did for a while, and then got into the hunting industry on a whim. Basically met a guy at a bar who was the editor of American Rifleman, which was the NRA's um, main magazine. I knew about that, but I didn't think that hunting was like a profession that somebody could get into. I grew up hunting and I loved hunting, but I never considered it for whatever reason. And he said, "Man, I just got back from Africa." I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Was that a family trip?" Or he's like, "No, that was a work trip." And I was like, "What'd you do there?" And he started flipping through his phone. I was back in the BlackBerry days. He had a BlackBerry. He's flipping through his BlackBerry, if anybody remembers that.
Oh, yeah.
And he was flipping through his BlackBerry and showing me all these pictures of him and these animals in Africa. And I thought, this is a job? I was like, you paid them a little bit for that or something. Like, you paid for your flights. He's like, no, this is my job. And then a week later in the mail, he sent me the magazine with that story in it. And I read it and I was like, wow, this is a gig. And with that in the mail, he wrote me a little note saying, "Hey, I'm leaving this job. You should apply for it." And so I applied for it as like a 21-year-old, I think, close to college grad, and they rejected me immediately. Like, no, you can't be the editor of American Rifleman. I was like, okay, that seems reasonable. And then
you didn't disagree, okay?
I was like, yeah, because at the time I was working as a stringer for newspapers. I was working as an intern for the Washington Post sports section.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the sports journalism world, and I was, you're coming out. I was a couple, 4 or 5 months away from graduating and trying to figure it out. And it wasn't too long after that I saw this is going to make me. Like I said, I'm not old, but I've been around long enough that this will sound old. It was like the first ever digital position that they were hiring for American Hunter magazine, which is the cousin to American Rifleman. And I thought, well, I'll put in for that. So I put in for that. Immediately got a call back, did some interviews, made some terrible mistakes in the interview as a 21-year-old, complete idiot. But still, I got the job. And I remember calling my dad and we celebrated, like, I'm in the hunting industry. I don't know what that means, but I'm, a real editor. I was the, digital editor of American Hunter. And that was the start of, it wasn't long after that that I realized this is a real job. There are awesome people here, and I actually get to go and hunt uh, for my job and write about it, which I never thought uh, would be a thing. And so as soon as I got in there and realized what it really was and realized what those opportunities were, I wasn't letting that thing go ever. Like I was never gonna go back or never gonna try a different gig. I was always gonna chase that, what it felt like to be in the hunting industry. Um, because I remember first time I got to go to Wyoming on a pronghorn hunt. Um, I was 23, I think. Um, and I just didn't know what to do. I don't know. Like I wrote about it somewhere. You probably find it on AmericanHunter.com or wherever .org or wherever it lives. But I didn't really know that much about hunting, and so from there I grew up in the hunting industry. I mean, I quite literally spent my formative years in the industry, traveling the world and meeting all these cool people, and worked at American Hunter for about 3 or 4 years, and then worked for Peterson's Hunting magazine for about 3 to 4 years, and then on to Yeti to help run and help kind of start their hunting marketing division when they were a relatively young company, and then on to Steve Ranella was my hunting hero at the time and a friend, and he called me up and said, "We're doing this meat eater thing. I need you, man." And then um, at first it was going to be in Seattle, and I was like, "No, I'm not going to go to Seattle." uh, and then they moved it to Bozeman, Montana, and I was like, "Okay, that's it. I'm in. I'm coming." And that brought me here to Bozeman, and then had a great run there, as you mentioned, with the hunting collective and a lot of stuff that we were able to do there, and then jumped off the corporate treadmill and got on my own thing. And so now we have a marketing agency called Woodside, and a podcast we do called Roost, and a bunch of other content um, brands and stuff that we're incubating, getting ready to launch here this year and into next year. That are part of the outdoors. And now I have kids that I take hunting, and it's kind of a full circle moment. But always a journalist, always skeptical, and always love the outdoors. And so the fact that I've been able to do a little bit of that mixed together over the last 17, 18 years has been pretty cool.
Dude, absolutely. Just an awesome story there. Just, I mean, what a crazy journey. Like from just the odds of running into that guy at the bar or whatever. And, it turns out he just got back from that trip. Like he could have been a day later and he was still over there,
Oh,
like whatever, like just the stars aligning to kind of get you that little foot in the door of like, oh wait, this is possible. That's freaking sick. I can't
it's like
imagine
yeah, it's that, man. It's like realizing it's possible,
yeah.
is a really important thing. Today, I think it's different because there's a democracy of media, but back then
Mhm.
you had to get a gig at a media house or a magazine or a publication. That's what it was. I was intern at the Washington Post when they were kind of fighting over the newspaper and the website and which one would have kind of like dominance and which one would really take control of that enterprise. And so that was an interesting time to be thrust into that media world. And I'll
Totally.
tell you this story. Like I don't know if I've ever said this on a podcast before, but this really happened. Um, and this will age that time as well. I was the HR lady who was wonderful at the NRA, called me up to give me the job. I accepted the job. She said, "We'll get you all the paperwork." She said, "But before I go, you're gonna want to go look at your MySpace page, and look at the photos that are on there, because you're a professional now, and we did review that, and there are some things on there that you're gonna want to remove before coming to work at the National Rifle Association." So I had to go back to my MySpace page and be like, "What did I post? What is on there? What dumb college things that I put on the internet?" So there was a few things on there that were probably not meant for the professional realm. So I took them off, learned that lesson, didn't go back after that
You were a
to
pioneer at
posting.
that point, it was
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
part
a
of
few
that
cake
first
stands, man. Listen, guy's gonna do a cake stand. It's not a big deal. Let's back off, HR.
right? Exactly. I feel like now that's just they call that just content now. That's
That's
all.
content.
That's all that
That's
is.
getting views.
It's
Yeah, it's
culture.
getting
It's
views.
that's awesome, dude. Well, man, you kind of touched on like, you looked up to Steve Brunella and stuff over that journey. Like, were there any other mentors you had or folks who like really helped you along the way, like especially in those kind of earlier years?
Yeah, I was telling actually me and Doug were talking about this last night over beers. I There's a couple moments, and I think important moments in my own story. There's a guy named Jim Brady at the Washington Post, who was this kind of digital news pioneer and this really like well regarded guy inside of the Washington Post. He went on to do a bunch of we never really stayed connected, but he went on to do a bunch of really cool stuff in local news. It was just kind of a digital pioneer in that decade where, prior to Instagram, where things were really starting to go from the .com era into the social media era.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a pioneer. And I remember he gave a talk to our team of interns, and I wasn't there for it. I missed it. I had something going on. And I was a pretty hard charger back then, and I was doing 40 things, and I just couldn't be satiated. I mean, I'd write and write and write, and I was that kind of guy. I was pretty pushy, and I just requested and requested and requested a meeting because I was like, man, I missed your talk. I want to hear from you. I want a meeting, just me and you. And, I was a busy guy, so listen, intern, go back to your desk. I got that a few times, but I didn't give up. I was like, man, I want to sit with you. Just give me 10 minutes. And he did eventually give me 10 minutes, and we talked, and I asked him questions, and from what I remember, he said, "Listen, look, like as a journalist and a storyteller, you have to like not be scared of a fight and stand on principle, but also like you're gonna need to learn how to film, you're gonna need to learn how to edit, you need to learn how to write, you need to learn how to code, you need to learn how to do all these things because a journalist in this day and age is really never going to be able to just write a newspaper article and sit on that. Like that's no longer going to be a thing." And that turned out to be quite prescient, pretty true across what I've done. And then getting into my career, there was a bunch of people. Steve is one of them. Less of a mentor, just more of like a hero type of a person that I looked up to and just really admired. But I've had mentors along the way. A guy named Bill Neff who works at Yeti was my boss when I was there. He's a amazing dude and always coached balance, like I think for all outdoorsmen, I think you probably know, like you can get a little carried away
Mm-hmm.
with your pursuits and maybe not exactly prioritize everything equally or in the right balance. So he always preached balance, and he was just such a good person. And at the time he had 3 kids and I had yet to have kids, and I was like, what's it like to have 3 kids? I don't think I'll ever have 3 kids. And now that I have 3 kids, I'm like, what a what a champ that guy was. But yeah, a lot of really good. I mean, I've been able to be around guys like Joe Rogan, and Remy Warren, and people that I, man, just greatly admire, and been able to build friendships and relationships with those people outside of their public personas, however you see them. And so those folks are important to my journey too, just to be able to to be with them and to see Joe, especially. Everybody, Joe Rogan's kind of a different thing now when you say that name. It's a bit different, but when I met him, he was just the guy from Fear Factor
Mm-hmm.
who was pretty funny and did psychedelics, and I thought was a very interesting person. He was just that, and now he's become a lot bigger than that. But last time I was with him, right before I went out on my own, we were playing pool, and he was like, "Man, don't have a boss. Like, you don't need a boss. You're smart enough not to have a boss. What are you doing with a boss?" I was like, so I listened to that, went out on my own. It's worked out really well. So just little
Hell yeah.
moments like that where that's those stories. I've been lucky enough to meet a lot of really maybe famous people, but aside from their fame, just the people that they are has impacted me for sure.
Yeah, totally. That's a good friend to say something like that, to give you that extra little nudge that you need to go. Not that you necessarily needed it, but it helps, especially as a guy who's out on his own as well right now. When you have that one friend who kind of backs it and it's like, okay, I'm not crazy. Good. Like
Oh yeah.
somebody else sees this too. Thank God. Okay, awesome. Let's maybe give this a shot. That's super cool, dude. And yeah, I mean, I mean, the hunting industry is cool because it's big. It's I don't know what you want to call it. It's just this kind of enigma, and then you meet somebody who's in it, and you maybe get a peek behind the curtain, and you're like, oh, it's pretty small. Like it's not,
Oh, yeah.
it's big, but it's not huge. It's most people have probably either talked to or know, whoever it is that you're thinking about or watching on YouTube or Netflix or whatever it may be. Most folks, it seems like they're at least just one or two connections away, which is
Yeah.
pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, it is. It is like that. I mean, I've spent, like I said, my formative years in it, walking around a trade show or I always say like there's no hug like a hug you share with somebody that's been at hunting camp with you or been on some crazy adventure or
Hmm.
there's just nothing like that connection that you get with somebody if you spent camp with them or you've done something really crazy or hard with them. You could not talk to them for a decade, but those things remain like vital to your life and your memories and your like what shapes you. Like that is, and I have that. I mean, in spades. I'm in a different stage of my life now. I have kids. Yeah, I need to be here for them. My full focus is on my family. That's what I think about when I get up. It's what I think about when I'm going to bed. It's pretty much all encompassing for me, and that's just the stage of life that I'm in. But the story I was telling was really my entire 20s and 30s. I was just in this industry, growing up in this industry with these people and meeting them and having fun and going to Vegas and go traveling the world and hunting. And like, I didn't know that that was special. I just thought I knew it was cool, but I didn't know how great it was. Um, and I'm glad that I didn't because I just got to experience it and I got to go there. It's not over yet. I'm not retired or anything like that. I'm just in a different stage of life,
Hmm.
where my focus is here and it's required to be here. And so it is in some ways has shifted. And so I can look back at my 20s and 30s and just marvel at what I was able to experience and do and how it's shaped me and how will shape my children, and who I've got to meet and now who my children have access to, guys like Doug Duren, for there's a long list, but he's on it for sure. So now I have access to these people that I can say, hey, you know, hey swamp people, hey Landry family, can I bring my son down to go gator hunting? And they're gonna say, yeah, sure, come on down. And so now I get to pass that on, and I feel lucky to be able to do that because that the hunting community, look, it's an industry, it's a community. There's plenty of fun, conflict, and weird things and bad moments, and there's plenty of that. Some people like to probably over-index on focusing on that because they like drama or whatever. But to me, it's just a bunch of really cool people and really cool experiences, um, and it wouldn't be doing the kind of life I've had justice to focus on any of this stuff that's maybe negative. It's just that it wouldn't because I'm lucky enough to have done the things I've done. So I focus on I have to pay back. I was telling somebody this the other day. I got to pay it back. I don't know. First, I got to pay it back with my family, but I got to pay it back every single moment that I can for the rest of my life. Like I don't, you know, I got I got a mentor. I got to, show up for conservation. I got to do those things. It's just what I got to do.
Yeah, definitely, man. Well said. One of the things that we talked as I was heading out of the Duren Farm, we were kind of touching on the hunting collective and some of the conversations, the importance of just the talking with folks with widely different backgrounds than what we typically have. I think, especially in the day of social media, it's really easy to get trapped in an echo chamber or to let your algorithm kind of guide your thoughts and stuff like that. But one of the things you said to me when we were uh, chatting there was that a lot of those lessons you're kind of relearning now that you've got your son with you and you're doing those trips with your son and you're learning those things, whether it be like woodsmanship stuff or hunting stuff, but also just like some of those conversations and different perspectives and stuff. What are some of those things that have kind of stuck out to you over the last couple of years?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, I think it for me personally, it's being able to pressure test some of these ideas with my own family. Um, I would say like it comes in waves. My first I mean, my kids, my oldest son is 9 years old. He's only known eating wild game. He doesn't know any different. He's like is this a mule deer or a pronghorn? He's not like, oh, it's wonderful. What a wonderful novelty that we're having this mule deer for dinner from the plains of wherever it came. Like
Hmm.
we're past that. We've kind of, it's just there. And everyone in my family knows we eat wild game. Every once in a while, a bison steak or a beef steak might show up, but that's generally not happening. We just eat wild game. That's what we do. So that's great. I mean, it's just something we garden, we eat wild game. It's just part of our lives. Um, that's not for everybody, but it is for us. And so we just got to move through these waves of kind of building these things into our lives, the scaffolding of our family and lives. And in the last couple of years, my 9-year-old has started to really participate in hunting. Um, and the years prior to that, he went with me. He's been pronghorn hunting and elk hunting with me since he was 4, I think. So he can, like, now this little dude can call up a bull elk and get a response. Sometimes even more responses than I get, which is concerning that that's happening this young. um, but he also, shot his first 2 turkeys last year. He'll go turkey hunting again this year. Um, he was able to go whitetail hunt on the Duren Farm with me and sit in the blind and kind of experience that. And so he's in there. He's in it now. He's reading the books. He's thinking about the outdoors. He's wanting to go outside and dig in the dirt and sharpen a stick and experience nature. And man, I told somebody, I've told Doug this, and I've told a lot of people this. As you might imagine, thought a lot about what it would be like to hunt with my son for the first time when he actually had a tag. And that happened. We filmed it for Roost last year, and it was better and more impactful on me than I thought it could be. And that's quite a high bar because I've thought about it for a long time. I've been thinking about it for almost a decade up to that point. Um, for example, I was talking to him about, I mean, he's a 9-year-old, so focus is not his best. I mean, focus is not the thing that he's doing more than anybody. Um, and we talked about focus, and when he was practicing with his 410, we talked about how to focus and stay on your target. And I told him, I said, man, don't worry about the sound or the recoil. You won't, when you shoot the turkey, you will not remember either one. And he was like, I don't understand. I said, well, just remember that when it happens. So it happens. This first turkey comes in. He shoots it. I mean, he couldn't have walked up and put it in its forehead any better than he shot his turkey. Shoots this turkey. It flops over. He has this emotional dump, and crying, and I'm crying, and we're hugging. And then we go up to the turkey, and we're just sitting there and calming down. The emotions are, you know, kind of stabilizing. And he said, I didn't feel it. I was like, told you, told you, man. But later on, back at the house we were staying at, we had a conversation. We kind of sat on the bed, and he just kind of peppered me with questions about life and death, about flow states. 'Cause we talked. He was like, "Why didn't I feel that?" I said, "Well, it's a flow state, son. Like you
Hmm.
were fully focused on this task and on this in this moment. Nothing else mattered. You were fully invested in where you were and what you were doing, and that is one of the most wonderful feelings that you could ever have." So we got to talk about flow state, and then we got to talk about life and death and what it means to take a life, and that it's okay to cry, and that it's okay to feel that way. It's also okay to talk about it because he was like, I don't know if I want to go out tomorrow. I said, it's okay to not want to go out. It's okay to feel the weight of that death is too much to have more death. So it's okay. It's death. It should feel. You should feel it. And so I mean, he's 9. And we got to have those conversations, and he really understood those things. Um, and we've kind of moved past that, I think, now. We won't forget that, just like we won't forget that wild game is, we're lucky to have that. We're also lucky to have that experience where, he was able to kind of realize the weight of and the gravity of hunting, and then realize kind of what a flow state is as a 9-year-old, and then move on to the next day where it was a little less pressure, little less emotional, a little more normal, and then on we've gone since then, where now he's just a hunter. But to go through those moments and see those things, I've seen that. Like you mentioned, you know, new hunters and things. Like I've seen that happen in adults too. So it's not so different. So I've learned that, like, those moments, those really special moments where somebody takes a life for the first time and consumes that life and what that looks like. Um, it's a little bit different, but are there some through lines, whether you're 45 or 9 or 60 or 10, like it doesn't matter how old you are. So I certainly like it has reaffirmed a lot of the things that I believed and the things you probably heard me talk about on the hunting collective. Like it has reaffirmed a lot of those things for me, um, which is like this really cool, intimate thing for me personally.
Yeah, dude. I mean, first off, that was like the recap of that hunt was one of the best podcast episodes. Just like most entertaining and cool to like hear you and Sam and your son all like kind of recapping the entire thing together and like sharing that story. But I mean, I love that because I'd never really thought of it that way. Obviously, I don't have kids or anything, and I have yet to take a brand new. I guess I can't say that. I've taken one out, but I love what you said there about the through line of like
Yeah.
whether they're 45 or they're 9, they feel the same gravity of that taking of a life, and the same. I think it's really cool even that he wasn't sure that he wanted to go out the next day because I think that that shows a lot of just awareness. I think in that you don't need to take however many turkeys off the landscape or punch every single tag if you don't want to. If it's the kind of thing where it's a matter of filling the freezer and your family does that for for the year, they're living off of that meat. It kind of puts you in a different headspace, I think. But especially with turkeys, where I don't know anyone who survives year round on just turkeys, but
I've tried. It's not sustainable for the population or for me.
right.
Yeah, it's not doesn't work out. Doesn't pencil out that one.
Yeah, yeah, dude. What did the I'm curious, what did like the early years, you mentioned like looking at your mentor who had the 3 kids, and now you have 3 kids. What did like the early stages of like, finding the balance like you mentioned? What did that look like for you in being a guy who's filling the freezer for the year through hunting and also working in the hunting industry? What did those conversations look like with
Yeah.
family members and finding the
Mhm.
balance and all that kind of stuff look like?
Yeah, process. That's a process.
Mhm.
I think for anybody, for me, it was. I'll say that guy Bill Neff that I mentioned that had 3 kids that I was amazed. He had 3 girls, has 3 girls, and and I was just always amazed by. He was just such a great guy, and he's so warm and always showed up with such good energy. And he was, my boss, but I still admire him to this day. And there was a moment, and my son James was born in 2016, and there was a moment in 2017 where I was gone a lot, and I had just gone. I was an embarrassing amount of riches of opportunity that I had at that time professionally. I had gone to Nepal hunting that March, the March after my son was born. I had gone to Utah on an elk hunt. I had gone to Alberta on a whitetail hunt. I had gone to, I mean, just name something. I had gone to Louisiana on a duck hunt. I had gone to Hawaii on an axis deer hunt. I'd been to New Zealand, and this is all in like a 7 or 8 month span. Um, it's pretty cool. I mean, let's not let, as a young guy getting those opportunities, I was soaking it in. Some might say maybe too much. But Bill sat me down. I remember we were going to film a Yeti, films thing in, hunting caribou and sheep in the Northwest Territories. I had been on this run of traveling a lot. I had a young, 8-month-year-old baby and a wife at home in Texas, and I living in a town where we didn't have family, and they were kind of just stuck out in the middle of nowhere, and I was traveling the world. But this is what I had done for the 10 years prior to that. But Bill sat me down, and Bill's not one to criticize, but he said, "Hey, do you think you need to go on this trip?" And I said, "Well, it's a Yeti film. It's a film I helped put together. I want to go. I mean, I need to go." And he said, "Well, I'm your boss, and I'm telling you that you've been gone a lot, and you don't need to go." I was like, "But what do you mean? It's the Northwest Territories. It's this, it's that." Um, and that was a moment for me. I went. I didn't listen to Bill. I went on that trip, And I also we did a film that has since come out about the Eastman family and how Gordon Eastman had pioneered the Northwest Territories, and his grandkids were coming back, and it was a great film. You should go to Yeti's YouTube channel and find it. It's a really cool film, and I'm glad I was there for it. But two things happened on that hunt. We were there to make a film for Yeti, and I don't often shot a caribou on my own. Um, I didn't need to do that. That was a part of the gig. I did it because I wanted to hunt a caribou. So that was pretty selfish. But then I didn't need to go on that trip. I was told by my boss I could stay home with my family, and I needed to go do those things. That when I got back, I'm so glad. That was a great trip. It was a great year, obviously, of all the things I said. But like that, when I got back from that trip, I realized, oh, I can't be gone. I can't leave my family for this, and I also can't be in this to go hunting. Like that's not. I love hunting, and that's a problem, like in this way. So this is a first world. These are first world issues, I
Mm-hmm.
imagine. But that was where I was at the time. I had to peel that back, and I had to say, look, my family is my priority. So traveling the world, as fun as this is going to be, I cannot, because I would come home and my wife would be like, thanks for the pile of dirty clothes. Your son and I have our own rhythm. Don't mess our rhythm up. Just
Yeah,
come
right. You're
in,
just showing up now, and
yeah, just like come in, like just be there, be with us, spend the time, but don't, and so some of those conversations were hard for me to peel back, like the life that I was living that I thought was a dream, and having children and starting to like mesh that together. And it didn't happen overnight. It took me a while to figure out how to blend that together, um, and do it right. And part of it was really having to, kill the boy, like having to get rid of who I was, and know that, like, people say like be where you are. Like I had to be a dad, and that was what I needed to be, and I couldn't be gone all the time. And so yeah, over some time I made that transition. And part of the reason I wanted to move to Montana is I was like, dude, all the things I love to do are in Montana. I can move there, establish a life there. And I tell my kids now, we moved here because of the outdoors and my passion for hunting. We didn't come here for any other reason. Like part of your legacy living in Montana and being a transplant is because I live this. It's who I am. It's what I love to do. And I moved us here because I wanted to share that with you, and I wanted to do it myself. That's part of the family legacy. We're not from here, but I was drawn here by those experiences. And so it's kind of turned into a fun story for our family. But there was a moment where I needed to realize that, hey, dumbass, you know, you, you, you got some people that are relying on you, but they're relying on you to be there. Not, that's number one. Being there is what they need from you.
hey guys, I just wanted to take a quick sec to tell you about Lone Wolf Custom Gear. Lone Wolf Custom Gear is as good as it gets when it comes to mobile hunting equipment. Whether you're a saddle or stand guy, public land or private, Lone Wolf Custom Gear has a set of sticks, a stand, a camera arm, and any number of accessories to get you closer to your target buck. To make it even better, everything is 100% USA sourced and made right here in the Midwest. And it's even assembled right across the river in Iowa by hunters who love chasing deer just as much as you do. To build your kit today, go visit lonewolfcustomgear.com. Now, let's get back to the episode. For sure, man. Well said. And it's a tough lesson to learn, especially when you're in the industry and like kind of in that stage of your career where it's like go, 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 like fill the calendar, fill the schedule, like maximize the opportunity. Because I mean, I find myself in that kind of headspace right now where it's like I've got a little bit of like FOMO of like, well, what if I don't do this trip? Or what if I don't fill that tag, or I don't do this? Like, am I gonna like discredit myself if I eat tag soup for this one or something like that, or whatever happens? And I mean, dude, I shot a buck a handful of years ago in like early stages of my relationship with my girlfriend. And at a stage where I was doing a little too much and we were learning to communicate a little bit better, and I should say I was learning to communicate better.
You got to keep learning.
Yep, and I
learn every day.
Yep, and I shot this buck, and I look at that buck, and like the memory I have of that deer is like, man, you were an idiot back then. Like,
Mhm.
cool, you got that deer, but like you kind of look at it and like you remember that stage of life or that sort of thing. And it's like you said earlier, it's a balancing act, man. But also super cool that that's kind of like your family's own sort of settlement in Montana, and what drove you there was to effectively start a new life for yourselves, which is really freaking cool and open up those opportunities. And I think it
Yeah.
was Donnie Vincent I heard say this. Um, and he was like, he said something about like trying to find a split or a spot to live where you're within, like, if you could only hunt there within like a 25-mile radius or something like
Yeah.
that. Um, like, would you be able to do it? And like positioning to yourself to be able to do that kind of stuff and have those opportunities and fill your cup in that regard is that's a pretty freaking cool
Yeah, man,
opportunity to
it's
have.
it's cultural too, We live here in Bozeman. Say what you will about it, but I mean, it's a place where people go outside, you
Hmm.
know. It's a place where people ice climb and ski and cross country ski and care about that stuff, gather around that stuff, hunt, fish. I mean, I always make a joke that like every time I'm in a restaurant, there's like 20 of me in there, bearded dudes wearing flannel and hoodies and whatnot. Like okay, like that, but that's a fun joke to say. It's real, but it's a community and a culture where we celebrate the outdoors and we, you know, we go and do things. And so that's a big part of it too for my family to live in a place where these days I spend a lot of time in my kids' jujitsu practices and then their football practices and all these other things. And all the people are there to talk about hunting. It's great.
That's super cool, man. Yeah, imagine if Meat Eater had decided to headquarter in Seattle. You'd be in ripped skinny jeans and
Oh,
a
dude.
beanie or something. It'd be
Oh, yeah, man. Probably.
that
I'm
would
a
be
follower.
insane. That would be insane to actually like picture where Meat Eater would be if they had settled in Seattle. Because I
I know. Well,
think it'd be a lot
Ranella
different
lived
vibe.
in Ranella lived in Seattle at the time.
Right.
I'm gonna grab a drink real quick.
Yeah, go for
Choke it. But yeah, Ranella lived in Seattle at the time.
it.
Um, and yeah, I mean, he old sponsored hunting collective Element. My buddy Rob
Hell
Wolf.
yeah.
He's a
Yep.
good dude.
What was the
But yeah,
cocktail you guys made? The salty
the Salty Gilbert. Yeah,
salty Gilbert. That's right.
that dude that yelled at me that time. That's a scary moment. Uh, it's a scary, real scary moment. But yeah, anyway, that was those little things. Like I knew at the time, that transitional time in my life where I knew I wanted to build a family. I knew that, my wife and my son and I wanted to build a bigger family and I wanted to build a thing. I wanted that to be my identity. And I wanted to, really be able to say, look, when you have children, it needs to change you. There's a very famous quote. I was like, let it change you. Let it change everything. It needs to. It should. Like, don't hang on to who you were because now you have this different thing that you have to focus on. And it's all encompassing and it needs to be. And so for me, that transition of kind of going through that in my early 30s was a big deal. And I knew I wanted to find a way to prioritize my family and move to a place that I could still do what I wanted to do and still build that into who we are. And so we're working at it. We're doing pretty good right now, with kind of that. But I mean, I've been walking around elk hunting with my son, and we talk about it. We talk about why we're here, what it means to be here, and how special it is to be on public land, and how special it is to be transplants in Montana, and that we owe a debt to really the outdoors. And Um, that's how we position our philosophies.
Yeah, definitely, dude. Well, man, you're one of the few Western guys who, obviously you travel quite a bit, but I feel like at least in my neck of the woods here, it's mostly Midwestern driftless folks who go out west. They do the destination hunt. They want to go chase mule deer or elk or pronghorn, whatever it may be. I feel like we don't get a whole lot of Westerners who come to the Midwest to chase our deer and turkeys and stuff. What is it about, like, obviously you have the connection with the Duren Farm, but what is it about like the Driftless region that keeps you coming back?
Well, I had to explain it to my son James when we came there to the Doe Derby. Um, I was like, you're gonna see, it's gonna looks different in the winter. It's much more magical in the springtime, in my view.
Hmm.
Um, but there's this very distinct look and feel of the Driftless region, and a lot of Wisconsin. Wisconsin has its own very unique, very innate things that you just don't get anywhere else. I mean, the people, the landscape, all of it. There's a picture of my 9-year-old sitting next to Doug Duren at the campfire. I don't know this gentleman. I got to just shake his hand briefly at the Doe Derby, but there's an older gentleman sitting next to him in like overalls and a skunk hat. I don't know who that
Yep.
guy is.
Yep.
He's in that photo. He is awesome. And I'm looking at that photo. I'm like, dude, that's why I love Wisconsin. There is a Wisconsin deer camp to me is a northern deer camp is part of hunting lore. Like it's etched in from the time of like World War II when people were coming back from the war and getting on a train and going and chasing big bucks in Wisconsin. Like if you close your eyes and picture the black and white deer hunting camp, those old photos, a lot of them are probably in that area, like probably in Wisconsin. Like there is this, great hunting lore. And so to me personally, I think that area of the world holds a historical marker in hunting, not alone like Aldo Leopold and all these others, the other pioneers that are from that area or wrote about that area. That adds to it. But I do think that like Wisconsin deer camp especially is something that like marks a certain point in time in a certain way. Um, and so I had to I was explaining it to my 9-year-old, like, hey, this is his first house. He's like, it's my first house party. I was like, yeah, kind of. I mean, yeah, you're having hot chocolate, but yeah. Um, so he got to experience his first house party in at Doug Duren's Doe Derby. But I think that's unique. I know it's unique.
Hmm.
And having traveled around and having seen those things, I try to identify those little pieces of that puzzle for my boy and for me. Because it is a fun, like there's really important regional differences and kind of just cultural things that you could pull from that. But yeah, a deer camp was something I had kind of thought of and wrote down for my son. And his first deer camp was in Wisconsin. It was awesome.
Hell yeah. That's so cool, man. And like, yeah, there's I spend a lot of time driving around obviously for chasing trout and deer and turkey and all sorts of stuff. It's been more than enough time in that region. But it's like there's a vastness, but also
Yeah.
it's extremely like cozy and intimate. Like, yeah, like the ridges and everything like shoot up over your head, and you drive into one valley and down over the next and everything, and it feels like you just got sucked into a vacuum almost, and it's like a weird quiet almost if the wind's not blowing in there, but at the same time it's like the walls just kind of hug you. And the cool thing about like the deer camp too, and especially like the doe derby, is like, yeah, it was an antlerless season and it was a 4-day whatever, and it was colder than hell and all that, but like it could have been opening day of the our 9-day rifle
Oh yeah.
season, and the people, the vibe, the behavior, like would have been exactly the same. The only thing that would have changed is you probably would have seen more cars driving up and down the road. That's the only thing. But it's
Yeah.
yeah, it is definitely unique.
I just I've always kind of just loved the experience of traveling and seeing those things. I mean, I don't
Totally.
we turkey hunted at Doug's place and then deer hunted and like seeing the different moments there and just kind of how it's treated and what it is. Me and Doug always laugh and argue about sitting for turkeys and sitting for deer and walking around, mooching, all the things that you do. But I do, like I said, I come away from it saying like, hey, going down to Louisiana for a gator trip and eating fried food and sitting at the bar and having cheeseburger and going getting on the gator boat. Like that's a moment, it's a thing, it's a piece of culture. Not every state has those things. Like not every place. There's a reason why like all the reality shows are based in Louisiana or Alaska or places like Wisconsin. There's a reason why there's TV shows based there, and the accents are a little bit funny, and the way that people react, it's like it very much is stitched into the fabric of the outdoors. Wisconsin, driftless, deer camp, whatever. It is very much it's different that way, at least to me. And so, um, I found that I'm there mostly just because I love Doug and I love Aldo Leopold and I feel romantic about the place. Um, but man, that being able to, we stayed in Doug has a little cabin on the far end of his property. It was -20 and it's a rough cabin, so there's no of no heat or electricity.
Mm-hmm.
But it was cool, man. Is that the entire Aldo Leopold quote about like a young 9-year-old just learned that meat doesn't come from the grocery store and heat does not come by flicking a switch. And my son got to chop wood to put in the fire to stay warm. And he got to hike over to the blind and sit all day and make jokes and he did all that in spades. And I and I think he got the full experience at Doug's place. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when it was like 4 degrees or whatever. That is.
Yeah, there was like a couple of negative, some 20-degree mornings there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I told Doug last night. I mean, I said, man, again, like I keep running into these moments as a father in the outdoors and somebody who's spent a lot of time thinking about the outdoors and just obsessing over it and philosophizing about it, doing all those things, talking about a podcast. Find myself in awe of it again, and incredibly thankful to be where I'm at. And so I was like, dude, that is the best thing. And that trip to Wisconsin provided a lot of that for me. And my son wore his sharing the land hat that Doug signed every day for like a month after that. He slept in it a couple days. And so he feels like he's a part of your thing now.
Totally.
And I'm so grateful for that. I hope he remembers that the rest of his life, and I would bet that he will.
Yeah.
Given how cool it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, literally cool. But
yeah, it was cool.
Yeah,
cool
yeah. Dude, that's super cool, man. Man, I know you got a call to hop on here in just a sec, but before we wrap up here, will you be back to the Driftless chasing turkeys this spring?
I'm coming. Yep.
Hell yeah.
I'm coming.
Awesome.
We're gonna film. We were locking it in last night with old Dougie. Old bubbly Doug.
What season you
got?
Yeah,
we're gonna what are we, season C?
Oh, nice. Sweet.
Season C, is that right?
Yeah.
That's like, yeah. So we're excited for that. We're going to film that for Roost. Me and James, there's a particular turkey over there. We hunted there last year with Jesse Griffiths. There's a particular turkey that lives on that farm. His name is Limpy, for obvious reasons. And sure enough, he was the first turkey we saw when we went there last year. We did not tag out last year. Jesse and I had a great adventure, but we did not get a turkey. And then this year, I show up for deer camp, and Limpy is just limping around the cabin. And I would swear, I don't know this to be true, but I would swear that Limpy's about 5 feet tall if he's a foot. He's probably about 40 pounds. And he lives there by himself on the Duren Farm, just limping around with one leg. And I'm going for him.
Hell yeah.
I don't like to name my turkeys and hunt. I'm not naming like a deer on the back 40, but this is an exception. Limpy is an exception to that rule. I'm coming back for Limpy. So
Hell yeah.
Just hope he makes it through the winter, dude. I hope he lives through the winter. And if he does, he's not fast, he's not fleet of foot, but he's smart. We saw him one time, and we did not see him again after that. And 3 or 4 days of hunting. I'm pretty certain he has a series of underground tunnels he uses during the spring season. So we're coming back for Limpy in season C.
Yeah, he can't be fast, so he's got to be smart. That's what he's got to
He's
do.
he's
Just a cagey old
he's
bastard.
learned. Yeah,
Yeah,
no. So I'll be back for Limpy. So check that out on Roost.
the quest for
I hope
Limpy.
I hope I'm kind of rooting for Limpy in this whole thing, but but I I look forward to it, man. I'd only been to Doug's like one time prior to this recent few times going back there, and now that I'll be really be there 3 times within a year span, um, I'm I'm still excited, so very very happy to be a part of Doug's community, man. It's a really, like I said, real special place and special group of people, and don't get that too often in life.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely a special place with some extremely special people for sure. Well, dude, I look forward to the quest for Limpy, and hopefully, I don't
No
know. I don't
doubt.
know. I honestly, now that you're saying that and painting the picture, I don't know who I'm rooting for right now.
I root
But
for Limpy. I
yeah.
go I go Limpy.
Let's give him like hopefully he
He's
makes
one
it
and
to
zero
like
so far in the
7.
battle.
Yeah. It'll be like just an ancient bird with like a 17-inch beard and 3-inch
Oh
spurs
yeah.
and just
Colonel Tom
hobbling
Kelly
around.
said that's a nemesis bird. Those
Yep.
birds are to be respected, and those birds are also to be traded. Now, when he beats you up to the point where you just can't do it anymore, you're allowed to pass him off to another hunter,
Hmm.
as you're now allowed to hunt him and get your butt kicked just as well. And so I imagine he'll kick my butt this year, and I'll pass him off to somebody hopefully when I leave. Um, so like I said, I'm a little bit rooting for him. It'll be hard to pull the trigger if he comes limping in, but
Yeah, right.
we'll find out.
Yeah, definitely. Well, man, I've got a season C tag too. That happens to be my favorite time period in Wisconsin's turkey season. So I think the odds are at least stacked in your favor. And I can't wait to see what happens, dude. But man,
Yeah,
before we wrap up here, where can folks go if they want to check out your media company, check out what you're doing, follow
yeah,
along with the Roost, all that good stuff?
yeah. Roost is roostshow.com. Yeah, you can go to our YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok, all the fun things. That's a seasonal show, so we're going to launch that on February 17th this year. We got a bunch of really cool stuff in store, some partnerships we're really excited to unveil across the conservation space there. We're making our own. I got a box of 300 calls that we been got put together this year. We're really proud
Hell
of
yeah.
those. We're gonna be putting those on the market pretty soon for everybody. Super excited about that part of the deal, and then we're gonna have a fun 3-4 months run across the country chasing turkeys, and man, it's a fun one. So we do it just each season, and we end it and bring it back every February. So this is kind of a cool time of year. As soon as the Super Bowl ends, boy, we're full turkeys.
Hell yeah, dude. I cannot wait for that. I'm after this week's little Arctic blast, I'm thinking warm
Yeah,
thoughts. I can't wait for spring. But
me too, man.
yeah. But dude, this has been awesome, man. I seriously I appreciate the heck out of your time, and can't thank you enough for coming on the show. And I look forward to the quest for Limpy, man.
Yeah,
I'm can't
we'll
wait
see you in
to
the
see it.
spring there, season C. Y'all
Yeah.
keep Limpy alive till then, please.
Yeah, we'll do what we can, man. Sweet, buddy. Well, hey, good luck, and we'll talk to you soon, man. Take it easy.
Awesome. Thanks, Pierce.